Oh, DJ Kryptonite here. I just gotta speak on one other thing from the exciting night of boxing last night. Again, hats off to all the combatants from last night. It was a great card. Everybody did well, but I have to point out this is part of the problem with boxing. People stay in it too long, and it waters the sport down a little bit. And I'm specifically talking about um, Gamboa. Gamboa, he was fighting Pitbull Cruz last night, and I believe Gamboa is um, is 40 years old at this point. Um, and Gamboa never really had a chin. Excuse me. He never had really a chin to speak of. Even in his younger years as a boxer. And at this point, I think the commentator said he's been down like 18 times in his career. But the impressive part about it is he's 10-3 in fights where he was knocked down. Um, and well, I guess he's 10-4 now because he actually lost this last fight. Um, I have problems with that. I think there should be a bit more stringent rules for boxers that are getting up in age and still want to put the gloves on. And you have to look at their most recent fights and determine even if they're healthy enough or responsive enough to get in the ring and take more punches. At some point you have to protect the boxer from themselves. And I know if there's a will, there's a way. You'll fight somewhere else. You'll fight in Mexico. You're fighting um, wherever. You'll fight in some other country that allows for you to fight if you look hard enough. But in the U.S., it should be something different. We should have better standards for fighters who we know aren't the same fighters they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, shit, hell, 2 years ago. And we should not allow those fighters to fight. It just shouldn't be. Long gone are the days where people were getting knocked down 30 times in a fight, and the ref didn't get in. The box would just wait for the fighter to get up and then start throwing punches at him again. And that's kind of how fighting was back in the early 1900s or something like that. And now, you get an 8 count and you get a 10-second count and that sort of thing, and get a chance to get your scruples together. Then you continue fighting. And again, like any other sport, boxing evolved over time to be less barbaric and more entertaining. I don't think it has taken away from the boxing game too much. Much like other sports, where they're watering the sports down, which is kind of making it not as appealing as it had been. And that's kind of where the NBA and NFL are going at this point, in my opinion. Again, that's my opinion. But anyway, back to boxing. I just wanted to point that out with respect to Gamboa. It was just unfortunate. Pitbull Cruz is a 24-year-old guy, and he's fighting a 40-year-old man in Gamboa. Gamboa's, he may have lost maybe 2 or 3, maybe 3 straight, or 3 out of his last 5 fights, or I don't know. He's on a streak of losing, and he doesn't look good doing it. He steps back with his hands down. He was never big on keeping his hands up. Now he doesn't even bother putting them up at any point. I don't know if he's just taking dives because he needs money, or he's just taking fights because he needs money. I won't even imply that he's taking a dive because he's getting hit with some massive shots. But for promoters and networks to continue airing or allowing him, and the sanctioning bodies allowing him, and the boxing organizations within each state allowing him to continue to fight, is a travesty to boxing. So a lot of times we just need to clean up certain things, and I still think we're slacking in that. And I think ultimately it's the demand of the consumer to tell certain folks to hang up the gloves. We don't want to see a boxer punch drunk at 42 years old because he fought 5 years longer than he needed to, from just the accumulation of blows and punches. So anyway, I guess I'm on my soapbox. I just thought that fight was, as a co-main event, it was lacking. It wasn't even. They could have put him in there with somebody a bit worthwhile, somebody that could defend themselves ultimately. So I think that was a bad call, bad move by PBC. That shouldn't have happened. Gamboa should retire. He should not be allowed to fight in the States because he's a shell of himself. And again, if anybody knows boxing, and anytime somebody throws the punches that Pitbull Cruz was throwing and hitting this guy with, and this guy didn't bother to put up his, and Gamboa didn't bother to put his hands up at any time or defend himself, yeah, that's a no-no. You're asking for something tragic to happen in the ring. So anyway, I'm on my soapbox. But anyway, hopefully everybody enjoyed the rest of the fights. They were pretty entertaining. But that one as the co-main event, that was a terrible, terrible fight. And that should not have taken place, especially for an upcoming star like Pitbull Cruz to go against a 40-year-old man that's a shell of himself. That was a waste of time and ultimately could have been a danger to Gamboa. But anyway, I just wanted to express that. Like, subscribe, comment, and DJ Kryptonite out. Deuces.